What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Lions video. Today we have some more news and rumors for you about our Detroit Lions, including Jared Goff's newest connection with teammate Amon-Ra St. Brown, some more possible trade scenarios to upgrade or potentially upgrade our wide receiving core, along with some more positional rankings, as well as a little bit of special news surrounding a particular player on the Lions. Now, before we get into this video and before we get into this newest group of news and rumors, if you are new to the channel and you are enjoying the content, please consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel. It takes just 2 seconds out of your day to do so. It's quick, it's free, and it is incredibly easy to do, and you'd be helping the channel out more than you could possibly know. So if you could do that, take those 2 seconds to like and subscribe. I'd be greatly appreciative for it. But with all of that being said, and without any further ado, let's get right into talking about this newest batch of Lions news and rumors.
So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
Now, starting off with the connection, starting off with the news surrounding our new starting quarterback and our newest drafted wide receiver. Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown have been working incredibly hard together this offseason to prepare for the NFL season, trying to build a connection similar to what Jared Goff had in LA with his former number 1 wide receiver, Cooper Kupp. Now, it has been said that Jared Goff has really taken Amon-Ra under his wing and really tried to show him and explain to him some things that Cooper Kupp did very well that let them and allowed them to thrive in LA. And Amon-Ra St. Brown has really taken it upon himself to try to emulate all of the things that Cooper Kupp did well in LA to help Jared Goff be the best quarterback he possibly could be, and of course to help Amon-Ra St. Brown have the best start to his NFL career as possible. Now, it has been said that they have been building a strong chemistry and a strong connection for many weeks at this point, and that Amon-Ra St. Brown is showing some things, and the connection is looking very similar to what they saw between Jared Goff and Cooper Kupp when they were both together in Los Angeles. Now, the Jared Goff to Cooper Kupp connection has been very, very strong over the past 2 years in LA, as that connection between the two over the past 2 seasons has resulted in over 258 targets for 186 receptions, totaling over 2,134 yards and 13 touchdowns. Again, those stats, those statistics coming in just the past 2 seasons. Of course, Jared Goff did miss time a season ago, and I don't know exactly, but I believe Cooper Kupp may have missed a game or 2 in there as well. But regardless of how much time they actually played together, Jared Goff and Cooper Kupp were a really good duo. They were very good together. They had a very good chemistry, and Jared Goff and Cooper Kupp was Jared Goff's most efficient and most reliable weapon for the Los Angeles Rams. So if that connection can be emulated with St. Brown, of course, St. Brown and Cooper Kupp do have some very similar traits, do have a lot of similarities. If that connection can be even close, even half of what they had in LA, Amon-Ra St. Brown will get off to a very good start in the NFL, and Amon-Ra could be seen making an impact even larger than what a lot of people and a lot of analysts are expecting him to have his rookie season. Now, getting on to another wide receiver, of course, we talked about Amon-Ra St. Brown. We talked about, that connection that he's trying to build with Jared Goff, but some people still aren't convinced that our wide receiver core is good enough. Some people still aren't convinced that the Lions have a good enough wide receiver core to compete in the 2021 season. And with that being the case, there are always going to be trade rumors about particular wide receivers floating around. And when there's a trade rumor about a wide receiver, there is about a 110% chance that they will be linked to the Detroit Lions. And that is going going to be the case yet again, as the Detroit Lions are yet again being rumored for the second time to be interested in acquiring Odell Beckham Jr. from the Cleveland Browns, as well as the other big trade rumor going about is current New England Patriots wide receiver Nikhil Harry has officially requested a trade, and the Lions may be interested. Now, starting off with the Odell Beckham Jr. news, Odell Beckham is a very good wide receiver. I think he gets underrated a lot because he's been injury prone the past couple of seasons, because he's missed a couple of games here and there. Last season he missed a lot. The year before that he was really healthy, had 1,000 yards when he was actually playing. I believe played 14 of the 16 games, and then the season before that got injured yet again. And really, I think because of his injuries and some of his just personality traits, a lot of people underestimate or undervalue how good Odell Beckham Jr. actually is. Odell Beckham Jr. is only 28 years old and has played 7 NFL seasons. In those 7 NFL seasons, 5 of them have been 1,000 plus yard receiving seasons, and the 2 that have not been 1,000 yard seasons was the season that he played last year, where he only played a few games, and then his last season with the Giants, where I believe he only played 3 or 4 games in total for that Giants team. So the only 2 seasons where he has not surpassed 1,000 yards was the 2 seasons that he did not play a significant amount of games. The seasons where he did not play a majority of snaps or a majority of games for the team because of injury are the only times he did not surpass 1,000 yards in his NFL career. When Odell Beckham is on the field, he is very easily a top 10 wide receiving talent in the NFL, and he is very easily one of the best and most prolific, dominant wide receivers in the NFL when he's actually on the field. And taking into account that the Browns are a very run-first offense and a very run-heavy offense, the fact that he was even able to reach 1,000 yards 2 seasons ago in 2019 is a fairly impressive feat in its own right. And of course, with all trades regarding, the Detroit Lions, and, of course, with all trades in the NFL, it's going to come down to the value of the trade, right? If the Lions are going to give up what the Browns gave up to acquire Odell Beckham Jr., which I believe was 2 firsts and a starting caliber safety, that's going to be way too much for the Lions to give up. But if the Lions were to give up a 2nd round pick and a 5th round pick, maybe similar to the Julio Jones trade, then maybe you have a strong case. If the Lions were to give up a 3rd and a 4th, right, that conditional 3rd for Kenny Galladay, and maybe a 4th or a 5th round pick, kind of similar to what you saw with Julio Jones, then maybe you see a potential trade scenario pop up. But to me, based off what a lot of people are expecting it to take to trade for Odell Beckham Jr., plus his current contract, and the fact that he has been a little bit injury prone over the past couple of seasons in his career, I would say just with the combination of capital it would take to trade for him, plus his actual contract that is on the books that would take up a lot of money, I think that it would cost the Detroit Lions just a little too much to give up and acquire the obviously Pro Bowl top 10 wide receiver. But if the trade capital is right, if Brad Holmes can somehow finesse a deal where it doesn't cost a 1st round pick, maybe it doesn't even cost a 2nd round pick, and it's a couple mid-round picks for Odell Beckham Jr., I think there's a case to be made there at that point. But like I said, I do believe it will cost the Lions a little bit too much in order to acquire Odell Beckham's talents. Now, the other wide receiver that we may be talking about today is Nikhil Harry, the wide receiver from New England. Now, Nikhil Harry is a former 1st round pick, being the 32nd selection in the 2019 NFL Draft. Now, Nikhil Harry has very vastly underperformed in his NFL career, only receiving 45 footballs, only having 45 catches in his NFL career, totaling 414 yards and 4 touchdowns. Nikhil Harry likes the number 4, apparently. Now, I don't think that his lack of success in the NFL so far is 100% strictly on him. The 2020 New England Patriots were not the most prolific passing offense in the NFL. As a whole, as a team, they only had 12 passing touchdowns and just surpassed 3,000 passing yards in the final week of the NFL season. His offense was not very good. Cam Newton is not a very prolific passer, or at least a season ago, dealing with his injuries, was not a very prolific passer and was not a player that was going to pass for 50 touchdowns, was nowhere near his MVP caliber, nowhere near his MVP season like he was in 2015. So the offense that Nikhil Harry was in was very restricting, was very limited, and obviously when your team only throws 12 touchdown passes in a 16-game season, it's going to be hard for any individual wide receiver to stand out significantly. It's going to be very hard for any wide receiver, regardless of how talented they are, to really stand out significantly on the stat sheet. Now, to me, Nikhil Harry's his production over the first 2 NFL seasons has shown me a lot about him, right? Has shown me really what his value is going to be on the open market for being a trade candidate. And personally, to me, his production only really warrants a 6th round pick. I don't see it costing much more for the Detroit Lions, right? His statistics, 45 receptions, 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's not horrible production, especially in a very limited and very restricting offense. But at the same time, he hasn't produced very big in the NFL. He hasn't shown a lot of development in the NFL from where he was as a rookie. His separation ability isn't very good. His contested catch ability, that was really his big calling point, is really his big talking point at Arizona State, isn't really the same thing that it was at the college level, right? When NFL athletes are bigger, faster, and stronger than what you faced in college, the things that worked in college aren't always going to work in the NFL, and Nikhil Harry has not really been able to find his groove or really find the right things to do. He hasn't really found the right techniques or the right ways to be that efficient in the NFL like we saw him at Arizona State. So with that being the case, I really see the Detroit Lions at the most giving up a 6th round pick. If it's anything more than a 6th round pick, or really anything more than a compensatory, if it's anything more than a compensatory 6th round pick, I really don't think it's going to be worth it for the Detroit Lions. I think they should just stick with what they have, stick with the speed, stick with the program, trust in the process, try to develop some of your younger wide receivers. And of course, next year in the NFL draft, if you are going to be competitive like a lot of people believe, that's when you can draft a wide receiver. And if you're going to only give up a 6th round pick, like, you can get a decent wide receiver for a 6th round pick. You might even find a wide receiver in next year's NFL draft that outproduces Nikhil Harry for a 6th round pick. So for me, I don't think the trade is really worth it unless they can really get a low value, compensatory 6th or even maybe a 7th round pick for the wide receiver from New England. Now, moving on to our next talking point of the day, we have another poor positional ranking. This one comes courtesy of former NFL running back Maurice Jones-Drew, as he ranked the NFL's number 1 running back, or he ranked every NFL team's RB1 from 1 to 32. Now, of course, you're not going to expect DAndre Swift to be top 10. I don't think DAndre Swift has warranted a top 10 placement among NFL running backs. He's very good. I think by the end of the season, he could potentially make that case, but coming off his rookie season where he had some ups and downs, coming off a rookie season where he was underutilized, I can accept the fact that he's not going to be top 10. That is not a problem at all. But what I do have a problem with, or what I do disagree with, I should say, is that DAndre Swift was ranked the 22nd best running back in the NFL among RB1s, behind players like Leonard Fournette, Ashawn Gibson, Chris Carson, and even first round pick from this year's draft, Najee Harris. Now, to me, he is not behind those guys. To me, DAndre Swift is not worse. He is not a lesser player than any of those guys. And in fact, DAndre Swift outproduced last season as a rookie, being underutilized and really not being used at all until week 6, week 7, being very underutilized, putting up these statistics that he did. DAndre Swift even still outproduced Leonard Fournette, who was put at the 21st position, one position above him. He outproduced Austin Eckler, who was ranked at the 15th running back. He outproduced Cam Akers, another rookie running back, who was placed as the 14th best running back in the NFL. And of course, he outproduced last year Najee Harris, who wasn't even in the NFL a season ago. That one really throws me off. Najee Harris not playing a single snap, being borderline a top 15 running back, especially ahead of DAndre Swift, who I believe is a far better receiving back and a far bigger threat overall in the offense. That one kind of throws me off a little bit. But regardless, DAndre Swift outproduced a lot of those running backs. DAndre Swift has outproduced a lot of borderline, or, according to Maurice Jones-Drew, top 20 running backs. So to me, I don't really understand it. Kind of similar to the Frank Ragnow thing. It's like Frank Ragnow is absolutely a top 50 player in the NFL. DAndre Swift is absolutely at least a top 20, if not a top 15 running back in the NFL at this point. I think he's on par with Cam Akers. I think he's on par with J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins vastly outproduced DAndre Swift, which I understand that. Jonathan Taylor, again, vastly outproduced DAndre Swift, but Cam Akers did not. Cam Akers did not vastly outproduce DAndre Swift, did not show anything to me that made me think he was a far better running back, especially, 15, 16 spots ahead. to me, that doesn't make a ton of sense, but to me, he didn't show anything to show me that he was 8-10 spots ahead of DAndre Swift as far as quarterback or as far as running back rankings. Again, another, in my opinion, poor running back analysis of the Detroit Lions. I think DAndre Swift is being undervalued, and I think he's going to be far better in 2022 or 2021 than even a lot of people are expecting him to be, even though he showed a lot as a rookie in the NFL. And then the last piece of news that we're going to go about today, it's going to be a very quick one, not really about the Detroit Lions, but more so something surrounding and something within the life of a Detroit Lions player. And if you have not heard the news, Detroit Lions quarterback David Blau has a wife that will be competing in the Tokyo Olympics representing the United States. And again, not really a Detroit Lions news, but it is something surrounding the life of a Detroit Lions quarterback. So I did want to mention that David Blau's wife is officially heading off to Tokyo to represent the United States in the 2021 Olympics, which I think is a pretty cool thing for an NFL player, and I think is just kind of a cool piece of news to end the video on. But with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching the video. If you are new to the channel, as I said in the beginning, please consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel. It takes just 2 seconds, and I'd be greatly appreciative for it. But with all of that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions!